I'm calling him. Hold on. Hi, guys. I'll try him again. Oh,
I think we got it.
this is good news. I recognize that voice. I can't see you, though.
You can't see me.
Hold on.
Okay.
Let me press a button.
Wait, can you see me?
Hold on. Let me press a button. Press
You
one.
can see me now, right?
Hold on.
Just turn me up.
Do it again.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Ah,
We're there.
the great Liberty DeVitto is in the house.
Oh my goodness! I'm telling you, the Skype, the Zoom, the FaceTime.
I
I was telling my wife we had to set up a whole new thing here, and I was telling my wife, I said, in the old days when I was with Billy, it was like, you want to do an interview? Yeah, pick up the phone, dial a phone number, and you talk.
Exactly.
We got you on here, sir. I'm so happy to have you on our channel. It's
well, you know, with the world situation today, I'm happy to be anywhere.
Hey, listen, I watched Hired Gun again yesterday. It made me cry. It made me cry.
Well, you know, I have a book coming out at the end of June, and you're going to cry again because I won't say anything about the book, but I will say that the circle's complete.
Really?
That's all I'll say. Yeah.
You got to send me one. We'll do a whole interview after this, just about the book. This will be great.
Because it's coming out on Hudson. Hudson Music is publishing it. You know, the guys that do all the drum books.
Yeah.
They've been doing a lot of bios. They did Buddy Rich, Jeff Porcaro, a whole bunch, and little old me.
Yeah. I mean, if you would have whispered in the ear of that that kid that first started playing drums, I got to answer your question. Would you say you're nuts, or did you have confidence that you would have done everything you've done if someone would have told you that back then?
If somebody would have told me that I would have done what I did in music, no. I believe that it would have happened, and I had a lot of friends in high school that wrote my yearbook. You know, keep your head, and you'll play with Steve Winwood one day. And I actually, when we did the Bridge album, Winwood plays on one of the tracks, and I brought the yearbook to school and I showed it to him. He said, "Oh, you're making me feel really old right now," you know. And you know, some people believe that I would do it because that's all I wanted to do. Me, you don't think about that stuff when it's happening. You know, when we went in the studio to make those records, you didn't think about that. Oh, this is going to be a smash, and it's going to be here like 40 years from now. They're still going to be playing this music. We're just a bunch of guys, a bunch of friends, just having a great time doing what we love to do.
But, you know, in the film, you say something, you preface, you mentioned scenes from an Italian restaurant. You know, one of the greatest album tracks that was never a hit. But, for instance, with a track like that, wasn't there a part of you that kind of went, like, this is a Journey song? Because, I mean, it's two kids growing up. But wasn't there something, like, you listened to that and said, you know, there's something going on here?
Well, we knew it was good, but how good? I mean, we were a blue-collar Long Island band. And how that... When you think of Seinfeld, right? You watch Seinfeld, right? When you think of Seinfeld, some of the humor is so New York. You think, how's that going to translate into the rest of the country? Well, obviously it did. I guess everybody has the same kind of story, just in a couple of words that are different, like mountains and instead of canals, and you know. So it did translate, and which is amazing to me.
Well, we're going to get to some questions from the fans in a second. Where the book? I'm really curious because I didn't know this was coming out. Do you start right at the beginning? You're a kid. You talk about your parents right to like now. How much ground do you cover?
The book, it basically is about how did my grandparents come from Italy on a boat. It took 3 months to get here. How did they emigrate to the United States, and 2 generations later, one of their grandchildren plays on one of the biggest albums ever. How did that happen? It's kind of like, you know, I never took drum lessons, so it's also follows how this all happened. how did it happen? You know, that I saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. Of course, everybody did that picked up an instrument. But where did you go from there? I started a band, and I kept getting in other bands that were better, you know, and keep growing. And every time I went to a different band, it was a learning process of like learning harmony or learning, you know, to create or learning and listening to other kinds of music. And so I wasn't like stifled by just taking lessons and just like carrying the book under my arm, what I'm learning today, and going home and practicing that book. No, I listened to everything. It talks about people, a shoemaker that I met that was into jazz, and he used to make me listen to the stuff that I would have never listened to if he didn't play it for me. You know, it's that kind of journey.
But did you come up, and you can't give it away right now because people want to read the book, but did you come up at the end with a consensus, with a formula that, I mean, some of this stuff is happenstance. It kind of happens. You run into the right person. You know, I mean, the Billy Joel thing, just getting into that. Did it make, at the end of it, did it make sense to you that all these things have happened to you in the book?
Yeah, even all the way up to the end, even with the end of Billy, everything makes sense. Why there was no Phil Ramone on Stormfront, why the other guys got cut, why I was eventually didn't go on that final tour. And, you know, you look at it now, I'm looking at my life now from the age I am now. When I was 24, I would get really angry at stuff and wonder, why is this happening to me, without thinking about like, you know, this girlfriend's breaking up with me. Why is this happening to me? Well, she doesn't like me anymore. You know, it wasn't that simple back then. Now it's like, well, she outgrew me. Or
Yeah, but
you know,
you got stuff in this book though. This is like life lessons though. This is the best kind of rock and roll book where you go. There's more beyond. There's more to this than just music. There's people.
Yes. There's way more to this than music. I go into the death of my brother. My brother, at 33 years old, we were getting ready to go on the Stormfront tour. My brother died of AIDS. You know how that affected me, playing wise, and you know, stuff like that. I was in a band called Big People. It was myself, Jeff Carlisi from 38 Special, Pat Travers was in the band, wow. Derek St. Holmes from Ted Nugent's band, and Ben Orr was in the band. And going through that period of when Ben got cancer and died is it, you know, in there. That's all part of how you become that person that you are. You know?
Again, before we get to questions, when can people pre-order the book?
At the end of June, I think it's going to be ready. It's at the printer now.
Okay. Yeah, we'll help you out with that. We'll make sure it gets out there. Shannon, questions?
Liberty I've got a lot of questions. Okay. This is from Timothy. I would like to ask Liberty about the sessions, what the sessions were like for The Stranger, 52nd Street, and Glass Houses.
That's a lot of ground.
Love your sound on them. You can touch base on that. That's like a 3-parter there.
Yeah, 3-parter. All right. The Stranger was an amazing album to make because it was the first time working with Phil Ramone. Now, Phil Ramone loved us as a band. And when he came to see us play, he saw the raw energy that we had. And he brought us into the studio and said, don't change a thing. Play like the road animals that you are. You know, he taught me that 2 and 4 was really, really important. That's what people hear. They hear the 2 and 4. I mean, Moving Out, the song Moving Out on the Stranger album, Billy had me playing almost the guitar part on the drums, like going brrr, boom, ba da da dun 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 ba da da. And Phil was like, no, write the 2 and 4. Bam, boom, ba da da boom, boom. You know. So he taught us that. He taught us a lot. And who knew that album was going to do what it did? I remember standing in a kitchen in the hotel. We were on the road, and it came on the radio. The disc jockey said they were playing it the entirety one night, and me and Phil Ramone were standing in this kitchen with the cooks cooking and everything, listening to it on the radio, thinking like, okay, that's pretty good, you know, not bad. Who knew it would take off like that? 52nd Street. Now that was a total like mind blower because we played jazz on that album. I'm not a jazz player. We play, Freddie Hubbard plays the solo on Zanzibar.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to be kidding me. We're not jazz players.
Was he taking a chance there, you think, or was he just, did he have the freedom? Did you guys have the freedom to do that? Because that was a bigger budget album.
Yeah, we definitely had the freedom to do that. I mean, after The Stranger became a hit, it was that time too when the record companies decided, like, why should we spend money on promoting a new act when we already got a million seller and we already made our money back? Why don't we just put more money into this guy and make it a multi-million selling album? And that's why today, you have the Billy Joels, the Elton Johns, the Eagles. It was at that time that record companies decided to do that. So 52nd Street was wide open for us. Could do it whatever we wanted to do. A lot of different people on that record. And then came Glass Houses, which Billy wanted just the band to do that. He walked in the studio the first day and said, don't think about, he said, we're going to be a road band. This is just us in a club. Play it like that. Like, you may be right. It's just like a rock band playing. Where Nylon Curtain, the next one, he said, don't even think about what you're going to do to play this live. Whatever it takes to make this a great record, that's what we're going to do. So that one's more complicated and more involved with overdubs and stuff. Yeah. So that's how Billy changed on every record,
Boy, you really know how to bring it in. That's good. That was really good. Let's get some more.
How did you meet Billy Joel for the first time? How was that connection? How did that come about?
I actually knew Billy when I was 17 years old. We played in a club called the My House on Long Island. And he was in a band called The Hassles, and I was in a band called the New Rock Workshop. And we used to just pass in the dark and just say hi. So we knew each other, for a long time.
When you were talking about the ending of that, I think a lot of us have gone through this. Well, I lost my job, I lost my wife, and sometimes my father used to say, first of all, you're not a snake. And I go, what are you talking about, Dad? He'd go, but sometimes all the skin has to come out and it's almost a new beginning. Hurts like hell. But I mean, did you ever at that point when you were losing your marriage, you were getting out of that band, was there any part of you that thought, I give up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I was done. I mean, you get those thoughts of like backing the car into the garage and turning it on. It's like, what am I going to do now? All of a sudden, the bubble burst. You live in a bubble. I played with Billy for 30 years. I lived in a bubble for 30 years. I could do anything. I could buy basically anything, Then all of a sudden it was gone. And it's like, what the hell I do now?
Did you ever splurge with cars or anything? Did you ever go kooky with buy sports car? And
no, I had a motorcycle, stuff like that. I moved down to Florida for 9 years. And, it's the law. You either have to get a motorcycle, play golf, or play tennis. So I got a motorcycle.
You picked the right one. Okay, Shanny, I think she's telling me let's get to some questions.
I've got one here from Tino. Do you still keep in touch with Billy? And do you hope he hopes to see you together again?
He wants to see us together again, huh?
Everyone wants to see you together again.
I'd rather get together with Billy again than my ex-wife, I'll tell you that.
Bada boom!
Yeah, there you go. Hey, you never know what happens, You never know what's going to happen.
Well, you ended that movie with a very similar sentiment of, Randy Meisner, I talked to him many moons ago, one of the last big interviews he did. Yeah. And he said, you know what? I said, I'm sick of the drama. He says, don't get me wrong. I get mad sometimes. Yeah. But he said, for the most part, as I get older, I realize it's for me harder to hold on to. But he says, I have my weeks. I have my months. But as far as being in the Eagles,
Yeah. Well, what you do is like at the moment when that happens, it's like, like falling and hurting yourself. After a while, the scars are there. But the pain is kind of gone. You know, so it becomes like that. You know, it's like, and I look at my life now, and it's like, well, I'm really glad my wife wanted a divorce, and I'm really glad I don't play with Billy anymore. You know, because it's you if you want to become better, you do. You become better. If you want to be a loser and think you're a loser because somebody cut you loose, then you become a loser. I chose to take the road of like, I want to do it over again.
Again,
You know?
another Eagles thing. Joe Walsh in the Eagles special says, at the time it seems like all these crazy pieces are flying around. It makes no sense. And you look back at it, it's like an opera when you look back at
Yeah,
it.
it definitely is. I mean, it's funny. I keep saying that, like, oh, I'd really like to do this again. And I think, well, my age, man, how much longer do I got to go to do it again? You know?
How active is Lords of the 52nd Street? How active were you guys?
Well, before the
Yeah.
this virus thing happened, we were playing all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, when we came home, right before they shut us down, we just did a week-long thing in Florida. You know, we would go to Florida, play for a week in different places and stuff, and we were blown away the opening acts. You know, Three Dog Night, Little River Band. We were killing them.
You play with Matthew Friedman, right, Mr. Piano Man? Didn't you play with Matthew Friedman, the guy from New York? Yeah.
Yeah.
We know Matthew.
You know Matthew?
Yeah, we know Matthew.
He's a great guy, Matthew. We have like 3 different piano guys, four actually. Dave Clark is our main one, but they all have other gigs, you know. So if he can't make it, then Matt is there. You know, if Matt can't make it, then this other guy. It goes like that. But the 3 guys, the Lords, are me, Russell Javers, and Richie Canada.
Yeah.
You know, and people they hear scenes from an Italian restaurant and they go, "Oh my God, that sounds just like the record." Yeah, it's because you got me and Richie who play. You know.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to.
Okay, so what's your favorite Italian food?
Oh.
My favorite what?
Italian food.
Oh, my favorite Italian food. Well, I've since stopped eating meat since I got older, and I quit dairy, believe it or not. But spaghetti and meatballs got to be, spaghetti and meatballs.
I got another one here for you. Are there any Billy Joel songs that you heavily contributed to during the writing, arranging process and changed for the better?
Yeah. Only the Good Die Young is one of them. It started out as a reggae song. And, and I told Billy, I said, the closest you've ever been to Jamaica was Jamaica Station where the train stops on Long Island. You know, we got to think of a different way to do this, and then I started to do the shuffle thing.
Yeah, how'd you come up with that little fill in the beginning? Because before you answer, our son was 8 years old and he was starting to really play drums for 5 hours a day. One day, some older kid said, "We're going to play Lady Madonna, Only the Good Die Young," and I forgot the third one. Goes downstairs and he's got his sticks. Remember, he practices all the time. 16 now. He comes up to me and says, "Who is this Liberty DeVitto guy?" And he's done this to me with several drummers. He says, "What the hell?" Because he couldn't figure it out. He finally got it. But how'd you come up with that? Was it just spur of the moment or what?
Well, here's the deal. You ready for the secret? Now, this is one of the secrets of the book, okay? Okay. Go buy Axis Bold as Love by Jimi Hendrix. And in the beginning, it starts off with the conversation between an interviewer interviewing Mr. Paul Caruso, who's from outer space, and it's Jimi Hendrix, Yeah. And at the end, Jimi Hendrix eventually flies away, and the guitar's going in stereo with headphones on. It blows your mind and everything like that. And then as that fades out, they start a song called "Up from the Skies." Same fill, ripped it off from Mitch Mitchell, right there. It's the same fill.
Well, it's Mitch Mitchell. If you play with Jimmy, that's good.
Yeah.
Good crop.
And "Up from the Skies" has almost the same groove as "Only the Good Die Young" too. That fast brush swing.
Oh my God. What do you got?
Who is your favorite all-time drummer?
That's a big question.
Ringo Starr. It has to be, he's the one that started so many people off,
Why do people not get that though? Why do people not get Ringo? Some people don't. Why is that? That makes no sense to me.
Because they're not listening to it musically. They're listening to it as a drummer. Like if you listen to Buddy Rich, you're listening to him as a drummer. You're not listening to like his big band and stuff like that because anybody could be replaced. But with the Beatles, Ringo was such a fixture that if you change the fill in A Little Help from My Friends, that one that goes ba boom, ba boom, you might as well change the chorus of the song too, because try to play something different there. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
He was like a songwriter's drummer, like that's what they call me too, a songwriter's drummer. You want to make the song better without stepping on anything, and that's what Ringo did. He came up with parts and just played great. He was steady when he had to be steady, bowed out when he didn't. To me, a great drummer will hear a song and say, you know what, that's so great that I don't think it needs drums. A great drummer will say that.
The less is more thing. The less is more thing.
Yeah. Or be able to say, like, I don't think that needs drums. It's such a great song. I think drums would just like walk all over the song. It would be too heavy for the song. That you got to look at the song first. That's the most important thing. I used to do these drum clinics, and I would tell the guys, when you're with your band, what's the most important thing that's going on? Is it the vocalist? Is it the guitar player? Is it the keyboard player? It's the drummer? No, it's the song. That's what you concentrate on. Why does Phil Rudd play the simplest thing to these insane AC/DC tunes? Would somebody else be doing Wild Phil's all over it, and then you wouldn't concentrate on how fat the groove was that they're playing? What Phil Rudd's plays is perfect for AC/DC.
Yeah.
You couldn't replace him, know? That's the way Ringo was to me.
What?
Charlie Watts, the same thing with the Stones.
Good example, yes.
I was just going to ask, who were some of your other drumming influences that you had as well? So.
For me, the drums, well, I loved Dino Danelli from the Rascals. He was my next guy. I also loved Jim Capaldi from Traffic. He was another one, and you can really hear a lot of Billy loved Winwood in Traffic also, and like when you listen to Stiletto or The Stranger, there's a lot of Traffic feel on that whole thing. The 16s on the hi-hat and the pulse going on behind the vocal. A lot of Traffic going on there.
Do you know why he doesn't record Billy? His music?
What? Billy doesn't record?
Why doesn't he record new music?
Well, I think Billy was dissatisfied and discouraged with the business of music. Loves music, but not the business.
But he said, last year, Liberty, he had said, and you probably heard this, he said, "Oh yeah, I wake up with songs in my head, and I'm going,
Well, maybe one day. Who knows?"
Okay.
As you got bigger and bigger with your drumming, did any drum companies come to you with offers to be an endorser?
Oh yeah.
Well,
I went. My first endorsement was with Tama Drums. I went to them because I had a set of Pearl drums and the stands were falling apart. I loved the drums, but the stands were falling apart. And Tama was the first one to come out with the extension arm on the cymbal stand, and they knurled it. So when you tighten that screw, that arm's not going anywhere. Nobody else had the knurl except Tama. So I went to Tama and I got an endorsement with them first. But eventually, like I went to the NAMM show and Promark was chasing me down the aisle. They said, "Will you endorse our sticks?" So it got crazy like that. Yeah, but that happened a lot. Yeah.
Did you ever get starstruck? I mean, you've been in the business for so long, and you're a New Yorker, and there's a part of me that goes, "Nah, people are people." But did you ever meet someone backstage and went, "Oh my God, that's..."
Backstage? I did a session with Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Now, I get the phone call to do the session, and I'm get in my car to go to the train station. I'm living on Long Island. I'm going to take the train into Manhattan, and I stop at the mailbox at the bottom of the driveway, and it's Paul McCartney on the cover of Rolling Stone. So I read the article all the way in there, and I'm constantly putting it down on my lap thinking, what does this guy want with me? He doesn't know who I am. What does he want with me? Now, Phil Ramone's producing it, and Phil always brought in his guys, So I get to the studio early to set my kit up and make sure everything's okay. And we're listening to some tapes or something that Phil's playing. And all of a sudden, the control room door swings open, and it's his wife, Linda, first. First thing she does is she points at me and she goes, "I know who you are. We've been watching your videos." I'm like, "What?" What? So then he walks in, and I'm just like, your jaw drops and hits the floor. It's a Beatle standing in front of me. So I shake his hand. I say hi to him. He says, "Hi, nice to meet you." I turn towards the door in the control room, and I back out of the door, and I go into the hallway, and I talk to myself. I say, "Okay, calm down. He's just a guy like you are." No, he's not. He's Paul McCartney. He's a Beatle. I was freaking out. It took me about 5 minutes to actually calm down and go back in that control room and know that was Paul McCartney.
How'd the session go?
Oh, the session was great. We did 2 tunes. One of them was "A Beautiful Night" that he had been. He actually put it out on an EP in England, and it goes through the whole process of "Wonderful Night." And the best part about it is first he starts and he plays it on the piano as he's writing it, and then it has a version of him playing it with, I guess, machines and stuff like that. Then it's got the version of me playing it with him, with the band that we had. And then it's got the version of Ringo playing it with him. So up one, it says, vocal and piano, Paul McCartney, drums, Liberty DeVitto. And then the next one, it says, vocal and piano, Paul McCartney, drums, Ringo Starr. That's the coolest part of the whole record.
Well, there's got to be a part of you that after you say, "I can't believe I'm here." I mean, I'm telling every artist this, and I notice that a lot of artists are very humble. You're quite humble, but I'm always the guy who says, "Yeah, but you did the work. That's why you're there."
Yeah. Well, that's what kind of happens, but it's still like, it was weird. It's like, it didn't happen to me with Stevie Nicks too. It's like, you hear these people all your life when you're learning your craft. You're playing to their records, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there with headphones on, or you got monitors next to you, and you hear that same voice coming through, and you look up, and they're like 10 feet away from you. It's weird. It's like very weird.
Yeah, that is cool. She's got.
When you played with Billy, what were some of your favorite tracks to play on? Did you have any favorites?
Favorite what's to play on?
Tracks to play on.
Oh. I can tell you more of the songs I don't like. Like, I don't like the song "My Life." I just don't like it. I don't know why. I just don't like it. I also don't like it because when my daughters were growing up and they got to that age where I would tell them not to do something or whatever, and they would look at me and go ahead with your own life, Dad. Leave me alone. I don't care what you say anymore. This is my life.
No.
Well, speaking of that, Tori's been really incredibly successful.
Yes, Tori's doing quite well. Yeah. All my girls, I have 4 now. I say 3 in hired gun, but I have a new one. She's only 3 years old now. And one, the oldest one, Devin, just graduated from nursing school. Then there's Tori, who's doing all that Chicago Med and all that stuff. And then there's my daughter Marielle, who just got off the road with Fleetwood Mac. She was doing dressing rooms and cutting hair and stuff.
Wow.
And now there's the little one that loves the Beatles. And I'm getting sick of the Beatles. She listens to them so much.
Was it drumming when you heard the Beatles? Did you decide you were not a drummer when you saw them on Ed Sullivan? Were you yet?
I did have drums.
Okay.
I did. My parents had bought me a set of drums. I asked my dad later on in life, why the drums? Why did you get me drums? And he said, because they didn't make Prozac when you were a kid.
Oh, God. You got some questions from the...
Sorry, I was listening to what he was saying, so I kind of got... After working with Phil Ramone for so many albums, how did things change when Mick Jones, a foreigner, produced Stormfront, and then Danny... Sorry,
Crouchmire.
Yes, on River of Dreams.
Yeah. Well, working with Phil was great. He was so good to us. We called him Uncle Phil. He was the other guy in the band.
Well, look at the
Just that
back of Stranger. And the back of Stranger, you're all like a family.
yes, he's there with us. As a matter of fact, when we go out as the Lords of 52nd Street now, Phil gave us that name on the 52nd Street sleeve when he lists the musicians. It says the Lords of 52nd Street, and he lists us as that. So we took that name. But the difference between Phil and who's the second guy? Foreigner.
And
Mick Jones.
Mick Jones.
Oh, Mick Jones. Yeah, oh, shit, I forgot. I played on his album too.
Yeah, you did. That's right. I remember that.
Yeah, he was English, first of all, and he was a guitar player, songwriter. So he had more of a melody thing going on that Billy really wanted, and Billy wanted a stronger, like more rock feel on Stonefront. So he gave that, and he brought in some new people, the new engineers and stuff like that, and it was great. It was the first time I actually had somebody taking care of the drums. I wasn't tuning them; somebody else was doing it because Mick wanted this guy because he loved the way this guy tuned drums, and we used all different kinds of drums. It was different. And then Danny Krochmeyer. Oh boy. Danny Krochmeyer, we actually there's about 8 songs that are on River of Dreams that I play on before Danny showed up. Billy rented a boathouse out on Shelter Island, and we recorded there about 8 songs. Then Billy decided he can't produce by himself; he needed somebody else, so he called Danny. He actually first called Eddie Van Halen to do it, but he was busy, so he got Danny Krochmeyer comes in and does it, and we didn't care for Danny at all, And when Billy chose Danny, we knew that Danny was going to bring in his guys, So Danny used all his guys because he was comfortable with them. But when they handed in the record to Columbia Records, Columbia used our version of Shades of Grey, the one we did at the Boathouse. So maybe one day Billy will put out all those tracks with me playing the drums on it. People have heard it and they say it sounds like Billy Joel, that album, when I'm playing. I guess I was a big part of the sound.
What was the best tour with Billy?
Oh, well, there's 2 of them. One, in 1979, we went to Cuba with 150 people from Columbia Records. Stephen Stills, Bonnie Bramlett. Who else went? Weather Report.
Wow.
A whole bunch of people like that. And we played 5 nights. It was a 5-night concert at the Karl Marx Theater in Havana, Cuba. And it was an exchange thing. For every American act, there was a Cuban act that went on. And Weather Report opened the show, and Billy Joel closed it 5 days later.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was intense. It was intense to go to this country that you weren't allowed to go to and play for these people. The thing that was really intense, I've met people that came over on the rafts when Castro let them go, and a lot of them they came over and their boats sunk and they clunked. I've seen a lot of them that were at that show, and it was pretty outrageous. And the second one was when we went to the Soviet Union. That was intense.
Of course.
I mean, here I am on a plane going to flying into I'm on a German plane, right? Lufthansa, flying from England to Moscow. My name is Liberty. Like, what am I doing? But that was really intense. That was great. I mean, just to meet the people, you get past the governments and people to people.
Yeah. Well, why'd they call you Liberty?
My real name is Libertori, Libratori. My uncle was killed in World War II, my father's brother, and I'm naming it after him. All in the book.
Um,
Looking for it. Looking forward to it. Stevie Nicks, what was she, working with her? I mean, I know you looked up and you go, "My, that's Stevie Nicks. I played with her," but what was that like?
Stevie, Stevie was intense,
Because she's wired
and
differently, man.
yeah, yeah, she's. I listened to her and read her lyrics. My second ex-wife was her roommate when I met her. So I got a lot of ins on like seeing her poetry that she had just written down and stuff like that. And I call her white blues, the way she sings
Yeah.
about broken hearts and situations and in love and stuff like that. And she was very intense, and the band that she put together was myself, Roy Bittan from Bruce Springsteen's band, who was replaced by what's his name from Little Feat,
Bill Payne.
Billy Payne from Little Feat. Ben Montench was on the organ. Waddy Wattel played guitar, and a guy named Wizard, who played with Mother's Finest, was on bass. And it was funny because I would always bump heads with Waddy because of my style of playing and compared to the LA laid back thing, It wasn't until we did Saturday Night Live, and we're standing in the middle of the room as everybody's setting everything up. And Wizard looked at me and he goes, "Now I understand why you play like you play. Everybody in New York is just like you. You move for a reason. There's a reason you're moving. There's a reason you're doing something. You're doing it fast. You want it done. The other guys are laid back. They're laid back. Let's go sit at the beach for a while, So that's why we were clashing all the time. Me and Billy, when we played, you could go out the night before a gig and get wasted and barely make it through a show, and the other guys would support you. So nobody would ever know that you were weak because the other guys are stepping up to the plate to hold you up. With Stevie, everybody's on their own.
Wow.
So it was really intense.
With Doug Stegmeyer, and the band was called Topper, right? You guys were in the basic.
Yes, sir.
How far back did you go? When did you first meet him?
When I first met Russell, that's when I met
Okay.
Doug. Russell came. I know Russell since he's 15 years old. We tried to put a band together back then. We had nothing. I have a picture of Russell sitting in my parents' kitchen. He had big frizzy hair, And Doug came around at the same time. Then he started to date my sister, Doug. And just hit it off.
When I heard that again on Hired Gun, you were talking about him, it made me think of Tom and Pete in the Badfinger. And I just talked to Christian Trieber, who used to hang out with Badfinger, and both of them killed themselves. And I remember going, you react in the exact human way that most people do when someone does something like that, where you go, you'll never get the answers. You can't take it back. People say things. Like you said, you could have answered the phone. It would have been another one of those conversations.
Right.
What do you do?
Right. Well, yeah. I played with Joey Mullen a bunch of times.
Do you?
I asked him, we all sat at the table once and said, what really happened? And it was like that thing, like one guy knew something that he didn't tell the other guy, and it's a shame. I just heard, I was listening to a Beatles station the other day and Come and Get It came on, with Badfinger.
Yeah.
And they were just so good. So good, that band.
Yeah. Well, when I talked to the photographer, just one last thing I'll mention about it, he says, you know what, I guess I should have checked out, but I reminded him, and he already knew this, like you already know this. I said, everyone, there's similarities, huge similarities in a lot of these stories, and it's an unfortunate thing, but it touched me when you said that, and you were talking about that. Nothing you can do.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, we were all like, we could have been better. We could have really reached out. I could have answered the phone. I don't know.
Yeah.
Billy felt the same way. Like, we could have done more, but we didn't. It was Doug's decision to do what he did.
Yes, exactly. Shannon?
You know,
How was it making the video Goodnight Saigon?
did we make a video of Good Night Saigon? Yes, we did. It's alive. It's live, right?
How it?
I
Yeah,
think.
he wants to know
By
how.
the way, before you answer that, because of the way you answered that, what did you think of the video process? Because you were right
Yeah.
smack in the middle of that.
I don't know. Sometimes you forget. I forget. You know, you forget these things because you did things in the past, and you are thinking of the future sometimes. You know,
Yeah, but
and that's something
let me
I remember.
interrupt you. Let me interrupt you. I gotta say this, and this might mean something to you or not. When I ask a hockey player about a move he did in 1972, and he says, "Yeah, Cornway shot it to me," and I'm going, "How do you?" I was like young in radio when I started talking to hockey players. I go, "How do you remember all this stuff?" He says, "Well, I've said it a lot, but more importantly, it's important to me." So if video making is not necessarily why you got into music, just to
Right.
cut you some slack there, maybe that's why it's okay to forget it.
Well,
Not that it was bad.
making videos was annoying, to be honest with you. Like, and also seeing the videos now, like looking at for the longest time video, it's like embarrassing. You know, you're always reminded of the clothes you wore back then, or the hairstyle you had, or it's just like ugly, or some of the things that you did are unacceptable these days. Times change,
Times
and the
change.
video doesn't.
But The Innocent Man, for instance, that album going back to a simpler time when you guys were all growing up, did you relate to that album? Because I remember when I first heard that album, immediately I couldn't stand it. Then I got to love it. But the first thing I'm going, this is not the Billy Joel I want. Then I got, well, that's kind of where Billy's from, you know? But how was it?
Innocent Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'd go into the studio and we'd put on the Drifters and listen, and then Billy would be like, "Okay, that's how I want this song to go," and I'm like, "Okay, let's do it that way." I remember telling Billy in the middle of Uptown Girl, I said, the Four Seasons, the song would stop right now. You would continue singing, but the drums would do fills instead of continue to play. That's what the Four Seasons would do. That happened a lot during that album.
Wow.
Like the whole thing and This Night is like when the Toys did what was that song? How gentle is the rain that falls. It's a classical piece that they put lyrics
Yes.
to. So This Night, the chorus is Pathétique, a classical piece. He did everything. And there was talk about doing a Innocent Man Part 2 because there was a lot that we didn't even touch on.
Is there stuff in the vaults? Is there stuff in the vaults?
No. There's nothing in the vault. Okay. Nothing. One of the best sessions, though, that we ever did was on Innocent Man, the song Easy Money. That was done all in one shot. I played drums. David Brown and Russell Javers and Cornell Dupree played guitar. Richard T. played piano. Leon, I forget his last name, Bon Jarvis or something like that, played organ. There was 4 horn players, 4 background singers. Everything was done at once, and Billy sang in the booth. And it was all done. It was like, this is so freaking cool.
Yeah.
It was a band playing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
great. Once I got it. But it took me a while because it was not what I was used to. Oh, poor me. That was not what I was used to.
Yeah, that was a weird thing being on the road with Stevie Nicks when that came out, because Tell Her About It was the first single off that. And Stevie had Stand Back was number 5 on the charts. And every week, Tell Her About It kept moving up until it bumped her right out of number 5 and sat there. The other guys in the band looked at me like, "Whoa, boy, you're in trouble."
Sorry. You got any?
I've got another one here for you, Liberty. What has been your biggest musical accomplishment?
My biggest musical accomplishment? Yes. I think, my what's better to me than playing anywhere or recording anything or winning, being on a Grammy Award winning records or with albums and stuff like that, is when someone comes up to me and says, you're my Ringo, or you're the reason why I play drums. You know, it's like you changed my life. You know, it's like, wow, that's pretty cool to be able to have somebody say that to you. You know, so yeah, I think something like that is really important.
I remember when
Yeah.
I saw Billy in the early '80s. The first thing I did when I went in the auditorium, because I'm a drummer. That's why my son's a good drummer, because I'm a bad drummer. Is look for your kid, and it's strange. My ex-wife at the time says, "I know you're looking for liberty, aren't you?" Because I coming out, because that's what you do. I mean, you must have done that yourself when you were going to see other
Oh,
bands.
gee. You know, in the book, I explained what it was like to meet the Rascals when I was 16 years old. Oh, jeez. It was like talking to Dino Danelli. Are you kidding me?
We're trying to get an interview with Felix right now. Trying to get an interview with Felix. Trying.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck.
What's he doing? Come on.
Yeah.
You know.
I played with Felix for a year and a half. It was great. Me, David Santos played bass, and George Marinelli from he plays with Bonnie Raitt now. He played guitar, and it was so much fun playing those songs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all those Rascal tunes.
Yeah, of course. What my friends used to call them the American Beatles. They'd say they're the American Beatles.
Yeah.
I've got a couple more questions here, if I may. How big of a change was it, Liberty, to play in bigger venues with Billy?
Mm.
Oh, well, one of the things that I remember the most about going through that change was when we started to play bigger places. I remember telling somebody in Billy's office, you know, it's really drag. We don't play that much anymore. You know, there's a lot of days off. And they said, the bigger you get, the less you're going to play. Because we don't have to go play a club like the Bottom Line in New York City for a week. You don't have to do that. You play Madison Square Garden once, or you play Giant Stadium once, you know, and then you move on to the next place. So tours got shorter.
What was your schedule like? You went on tour. Okay, you land in Cincinnati. What do you do? I mean, once you get up, what was your routine like?
Well, you're talking at the end or the beginning? I mean, you got 30 years spanned here.
Yeah, but what did you have a regular thing that you did? I mean, did you go to
the gym?
I wouldn't, but anyway, go ahead.
No, I did. When I got older, yes, I did. I swam. Every hotel we stayed at was, we stayed at Ritz-Carlton's and Four Seasons then, and they all had pools. And, I would go swim before breakfast, and I was in great shape then. But, and then, you hang out or you go walk around the city that you're in. And at 5 o'clock, you go to sound check.
Sound check, yeah.
Do your sound check, you eat dinner, do the show. We're done by 10. You're back at the hotel, and either you're straight or you're getting out of it. That's where the downfall comes.
Did the travel ever get to you, or did you not mind it?
Oh, I love hotels. Where else can you be like, you leave your room, you throw towels on the floor, you go have breakfast, you come back and they're picked up and your bed's made. Are you kidding me? I do that to my wife. She smacks me.
Do you listen to new music at all?
Any new music?
Yeah, it's a generic question, but I'm just kind of curious.
Well, I try to find new things. I have another band called the Slim Kings.
Oh, right.
We write stuff, and it's with younger guys, and they play new stuff for me. The bass player is really into hip hop. And you know what? It's funny. The summer is here now. It's starting to come in New York City here. And everybody's got their windows rolled down. And as the cars drive by, I don't have to buy hip hop records. I can hear them coming out the car doors, So I like to listen to new things and hear the new beats and the new rhythms that are going on. I'm not one of those guys that the whole world sucks, Yeah. Music stinks these days. The music business stinks, but there's people out there creating stuff.
I'm not going to ask you to be a doctor, but when do you think this is going to end?
The virus?
Yeah. Are you looking to you personally? Is there a part of you that goes, "This is going to last for a year"? Or I mean, how do you look? How are you taking all this?
Well, in the beginning, they started to cancel our Lord gigs, because we were booked into next year. And right now, there's still one hanging in August. So if that makes it, or if that gets canceled, then we probably won't have until October.
Right.
And then, maybe not until next summer. I think that the business that we're in is going to be the last one to recover.
Yeah.
Because there's big crowds.
Mm.
I mean, with these promoters now using drive-in movie theaters to do shows, and you listen in the box. Geez, you used to have these great PAs. Now you're going to listen to in the movie box.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate thing. Well, listen, what I'm going to do is, just to wrap things up, is I'll contact you about the book. We'll talk about the book more, and we can do a
Yes.
whole series, just you and I, or again, we can have people asking us questions just on the book. I'd like to do that to help you promote it. I mean, I can't wait to read it.
Yeah,
That's a lot of ground to cover.
it is. It is. It's. A certain person read it that I really appreciate what he said. He wrote me back, and his first thing was, "Wow, this is really good." I was surprised that he said that.
How far back has that thought of writing a book been in your head?
Oh well, it happened right after this whole thing with Billy and the divorce went down. So that's like 15 years ago when I started to write it, and then you put it away because it's like, nobody wants this, and and then you keep changing stuff, and then you start to grow, and the hurt is starting to wear off, and you start to change, and then you find out real things that happened, and so yeah, it took a long time, but it's me now.
Yes.
It's me now.
And
It's not. I mean, when I wrote about my ex-wife, my wife Anna, she read it and she goes, "That's not you anymore. You got to fix this."
No, that's good feedback. Well, they say in writing, don't ever send, or even the letter or an email, don't send the first one.
Right.
So there you go. Liberty,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure talking to you, man. We wrapped up the hour real quick. What I'll do is I'll contact you, and we'll set up something for the book, because this sounds juicy, but not too juicy. I hear juicy.
No, it's not juicy. I mean, when I do things, you'll learn about me. Like I told Russell, who was in Topper with me,
Yeah.
I said, Russ, you got to remember, this is a book about me and what I remember and how I saw it.
Yes.
Not how you saw it or what happened to you, is what happened to me.
Write what you know. Write what you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the old thing. Anyway, been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself, my friend.
It was great.
Bye.
Thanks.
And we are going to, I think there we go. Hold on. I'm going to press a button here. Sorry. There we go.
Press it.
There we go. That was a lot of fun. We're still on. Thank you very, very much, everybody, for tuning in. There's a lot of shortcuts for this software that it's right here. We've just set up a system where we can press our shortcuts. We're going to go, yeah, this is when he comes off. This is when we do this. And we'll learn that.
Slowly but surely.
Slowly. Wasn't that a hoot? Wasn't he an amazing, just forthright, love New Yorkers? I think we've got some people saying hi to us before we take off. But this was one of my favorites. They've all been good because they all come from different angle. Like Marcus last week, having a younger artist who just plays that makes me stare at the speakers. I know I say that too often, and then Jeff Coffey, who's one of my favorite singers, in Chicago, even though he was only there for 2 years, and Russ and Shem Von Schreck. I mean, and next week Steve Porcaro, by the way, and then Ray Williams, who introduced Elton John to Bernie Taupin after that. We have a third one I've got lined up. We're not sure if that's going to work out because artists, by the way, and you'll understand this, are going, I don't know, man, in 3 weeks. And realistically, all of them go, well, no, we won't be back at it in 3 weeks. But they're kind of, when you're asking them to do something in a month, right? They're going, well, I don't know what's going to be going on in a month. So there's tentative people. But Steve Porcaro next week, I'll get a lot of... Thank you for doing this. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff Brush. Orbitson, great stuff. Thank you. Sean Barnes, that was great. Wasn't that fun? I mean, a person like Liberty is the best type of person to have on when he's just basically telling stories, doesn't mind talking about Billy Joel. He knows most of the questions will come up to Billy Joel. I've interviewed people where they go, well, I want to talk about my new stuff. And I go, I understand that. But the reason that we know who you are when you come in the room, not that you're not talented enough, the reason we know who you are is because of that. And you don't even have to explain that to Liberty DeVitto. He knows that. He knows. And he doesn't mind talking about it. He was there. He was in the room. He was creating it with Billy Joel, right? And he's willing to talk about anything. And man, I want that book.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And yes, I was watching Magnum PI before. I know I wasn't. It just came up. Every time I wear a flowery shirt like this, I get, you're watching. It was fun. Cindy Walter, Gary from Florida. Oh, yeah. Really enjoyed the evening. Keep up the good work. Thank you. And if we get more than one a week, we'll let you know. Wish we had a mailing list. We should create a mailing list.
But I think it's a great idea that we do a lot of these interviews live. I think that's great.
Let that be our last thought. Let's kind of do this. And how many of you are, what's the thing you use for work? Zoom. How many of you are comfortable using Zoom? I have it in this MacBook. Shannon has it in her work computer. Is it important for you to be on screen? I would think that maybe you'd like the artist to see you, so that you're kind of having a conversation with them. It's a little closer to being in the room with them, right? So I would think, I don't know if we can do both. Maybe in Zoom, can you mute your picture?
Well, I know for us now, we usually just do Skype.
Oh, you guys
Or
are doing
Microsoft.
Skype.
Yeah, so we don't do so much with Zoom, only because there's a whole bunch of issues around that as well.
I wonder
for privacy.
I wonder how many people you can have on Skype. Oh, maybe someone could come on, ask a question.
Perhaps.
Okay, if anybody is a techie listening to us as we're thinking out loud, nice shirt, John. Thank you. The Frighter Watcher. Yeah, thank you. All my shirts are colorful. Anyway, so Shannon's telling me to wrap it up. She has hand signals down here. She's a happy wife, happy life.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
for
everybody.
joining us.
But anyway, text us in the comments join our Facebook group and email me there, or friend me on Facebook. I think I've still got 1,000 spots left there. I never check. So thank you very much for everything. And Liberty DeVitto, thank you. What a guy. What a guy.
Great night. Bye.
And broadcast.